Well, Australia, this is the way it looks as of about 11:37, the 148 seats that make up the House of Representatives. Starting in Tasmania, we'll look first at the state trend.
Well, as we can see in Tasmania, the Labor Party's done very well. 49.1%. The Labor vote has been increasing in Tasmania for a number of elections, and they've gained at least one seat and another seat in doubt.
And let's go, and swing there?
Well, there's a significant swing from the Liberals to the Labor Party in Tasmania. The Labor Party's back to the position it was in the early 70s in Tasmania.
OK, and Anthony, if we go through them seat by seat, first of all, starting with Bass.
Well, this is the one seat still in doubt. Warwick Smith suffered a swing against him of about 4.7%. At this stage, after preferences, the Labor Party's on 50.2. That one's still in doubt. We won't know that for a few days.
And Braddon?
Braddon, this has gone to the Labor Party in a very substantial swing. It's a swing of over 10%. Sid Sidebottom has won that seat. He's pulled well ahead of Chris Miles, and after preferences, that's 54.5. That's a 10% swing.
And moving to Denison.
Well, this is the safest Labor seat in Tasmania. It's even safer after this election. Duncan Kerr didn't need preferences, but after preferences, 65%. The Liberal candidate there, Mr Gregson, runs the only stand-up comedy in Hobart. That's if you exclude the Legislative Council.
OK, and Franklin.
In Franklin, we've got a Goodluck there, but it's not Bruce Goodluck, it's an unrelated Jane Goodluck. Harry Quick has got close to a primary, winning it on primaries. He's in fact got a 2.3% swing after preferences, 57% for Harry Quick back in Parliament.
And Anthony, the fifth seat in Tasmania, Lyons.
Well, this is a big swing for Dick Adams. He's got a swing of over 10%. He holds it very safely now, 61%, and he's back in Parliament.
OK, that's the 5 seats in Tasmania. So let's now move to the state of Victoria. And first of all, of course, the state trend.
Well, as you've seen, Victoria, the Labor Party's vote is 44.7 to the Liberals' 36.8. If you look at it in swing terms, the Liberal Party's down 3.2, the One Nation vote is up. So there's been a bit of a switch there. There's been a great disappointment for the Labor Party in Tasmania compared to what everyone thought it was going to be.
OK, if we move to seat by seat, we look first at the seat of Aston.
I'm having some difficulty hearing you, Maxine, so I'll have to...
OK, well, just call the first seat there, okay. Aston.
The seat of Aston has been retained by the Liberal Party with a swing of 1.6% to the Labor Party. Peter Nugent has been comfortably returned for the Liberal Party.
OK, moving to Ballarat.
Well, this is a seat at the top of the swing that the Labor Party needed to win if they were going to form government. They've in fact only achieved a 1% swing. Michael Ronaldson has been returned. He's got more of the primary vote than the Labor Party candidate, and after preferences will hold the seat with a 2.6% majority. And
Batman?
Martin Ferguson's very safe seat in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Still very safe for him. He's increased his margin by 5.5%. Even he's got over over 3/4 of the vote in that electorate.
And Bendigo?
This is one of the Labor Party gains in Victoria. Steve Gibbons for the Labor Party has picked that seat up, winning it from the Liberal Party. Bruce Reid was the retiring Liberal member. Max Turner's failed to hold it for the Liberal Party.
All right, and moving to Bruce?
Well, the Labor Party has increased its majority substantially in this electorate. Their two-party preferred is 56.8, a 6% swing. Alan Griffin will be returned. Labor Party didn't want a 6% swing in that electorate. It wanted a 6% swing in all the neighbouring Liberal electorates.
And the seat of Burke?
Burke's a mixed rural-urban seat. Neil O'Keefe, the shadow primary industry minister or spokesperson, he's increased his margin slightly. He holds the seat comfortably. OK,
move to the seas. Cornwall.
Well, another very safe seat with a majority of over 20%. Andrew Theophanous has been returned to Parliament.
And Casey?
Well, this is out on the very edge of the city. Michael Wooldridge is the new member for Casey, replacing former Speaker Bob Halverson. He moved to a safer seat and he's won it comfortably. A swing of about 2% to Labor, but he still holds it with a swing of 4.7%.
And Michael
Michael
Wooldridge's old seat of Chisholm.
And this shows you why he moved to Casey, because in fact the Labor Party has gained that with a 5% swing. Anna Burke is the new member for Chisholm.
OK, and Corangamite?
The Labor Party, this is the Liberal Party seat, relatively safe. It's actually, I'm just trying to look here. After the distribution of preferences, it's 54.1% for the Liberals. That's about the smallest margin we've seen in Corangamite for a very, very long time.
And Corio?
Well, this is a safe Labor seat based entirely on Geelong. Gavin O'Connor's held that for a number of years, and he is comfortably winning that seat again.
OK, seat of Deakin?
Now, this is one of those seats that tells the story of this election. The Labor Party needed to win Deakin. It only had a 2.5% majority. All they got was 0.7. Philip Baresi has retained that seat for the Liberal Party.
And Dunkley?
That required a 3.4%. This was the sort of seat Labor needed to get as far as. Labor Party got nowhere near that sort of seat. Bruce Bilser has won that seat very easily for the Liberal Party.
And our panellist tonight, Peter Reith, his seat of Flinders.
Well, there was some wild talk about Peter Reith and difficulties he had in that election. He was dogged by Walkies all through the campaign. He has had a 6% swing, but he still holds the seat comfortably. I don't think Labor came near winning that seat in the end. I don't think they really thought they would. Peter Reith's back in Parliament.
And Gellibrand.
Well, this is the seat of Ralph Willis. He's retiring. There's been a 5% swing to the Labor Party. Nicola Roxon, who's she's the new female member for Gellibrand, replacing Ralph Willis.
Oh, with a name like Nicola, I would hope so. Yeah. Okay, Goldstein.
Well, Julie McGorran suffered a bit of a swing against him on the primary votes. He's down to 43%. There was some talk the combination of independents there would swap preferences, but their vote just hasn't got high enough to be really a threat to the National Party. And Julia McGorran will get back with a substantial swing against him, but he will be returned.
And Higgins.
Goldstein first, I think.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I called it wrong. I beg your pardon.
I think we'll have a look at Goldstein. This is David Kemp's seat.
Sorry, we got Gold. No, we're on Gippsland there.
Well, thank you, Owen. Well, Goldstein's been won. There we are. Goldstein's been won by David Kemp, and he's comfortably retained. A 3% swing against him, but it's a very safe Liberal seat.
And moving on to Higgins.
Well, this one is David Peter
Costello.
Peter Costello. We haven't spoken to him heard from him much tonight, but he has won the seat. He's held up his majority, no problems there holding his seat. He is the returned to Parliament.
And the man who told us tonight he's getting out of Parliament, the member for Holt, Gareth Evans.
Well, he's built his majority up to 15%, so
he's going out on a swing.
He's going out on a winning note to one extent, but he may have contributed to the problems the Labor Party had in trying to win the election.
And seat of Hotham.
He's next door. It's a similarly safe seat for the Labor Party, and Simon Crean's comfortably returned.
And Indy.
Well, the last time Labor Party won the seat of Indy was when the Liberal member forgot to nominate back in 1928. So this is a very safe seat. Lou Lieberman has been comfortably returned in that electorate, so he has suffered a swing.
Okay, seat of Isaacs.
Well, this was very marginal before the election. It's now got a majority of about 6%. Greg Wilton has won that seat comfortably for the Labor Party.
And Jager.
This is the seat of Jenny Macklin, who did so well in exposing the nursing home problems of the government. She's won that seat quite comfortably with about a 3% swing to her.
And Kooyong.
Petro Giorgio has been returned very comfortably for this very safe eastern suburb seat.
And La Trobe?
Well, La Trobe, this was one of those seats. It was a 1.4% margin. Again, this was a seat, a must-win seat for Labor, and they didn't win it. Bob Charles, very good local member, and he and many other good local Liberal members have been responsible for the return of the Howard government.
And seat of Lawler, retiring member Barry Jones.
Well, Barry Jones has moved on. Julia Gillard, who's the Chief of Staff for Labor Opposition Leader in Victoria, John Brumby, is the new Labor member for Lawler. Sorry. Barry Jones will correct me if I say that wrong.
And seat of Mallee.
Well, this is a very safe National Party seat up based around Mildura in the top of the state. John Forrest has won that seat very comfortably. It's not a seat the National Party would expect to be in trouble in.
And Maribyrnong.
Well, Bob Sercombe won this seat at the last election. He's been very comfortably returned. He's got a majority of well over 20% after the distribution of preferences.
Okay, and one of the seats we've been talking about most of the night, McEwen.
Again, let's talk about it. One of those seats the Labor Party had to win, and they didn't win it. Fran Bailey, another one of those star performers for the Liberal Party in a marginal seat. I think the Liberal Party owe a huge debt to some of their marginal seat members, and Fran Bailey is one of those. And having lost her seat in 1993 on the GST, she'll be very pleased to have actually won the seat when the GST was running again.
Right, and moving to the seat of Melbourne.
This is a seat the Labor Party has won. There has been a 3% swing to the Labor Party in this electorate. Russell Broadbent is defeated. The former member, Barry Cunningham, got less than 5%. A former staffer of his when he was the member, Christian Zara, is the new Labor member for Macmillan.
Macmillan, I beg your pardon, I called that incorrectly, Macmillan. And the seat of Melbourne now.
Well, this is Lindsay Tanner's very safe seat in central Melbourne. He's won that very comfortably. He's got a majority of over 20%. Lindsay Tanner's in Parliament.
And Melbourne Ports?
Well, this is Clyde Holding's old seat. He's retired, and so in fact there's only a small swing occurred in this. The Snedden name there, that's Fiona Snedden, the daughter of former Liberal Party leader Billy Snedden, but she's been unable to win the seat. Michael Danby has been elected as the new Labor member for Melbourne Porch, replacing Clyde Holding.
And seat of Menzies.
Well, there's just a couple of interesting things here in Menzies. Kevin Andrews was opposed by Philip Nitschke, who was the campaigner for euthanasia. There has been a bit of a good vote there for Nitschke, but in no way endangering Andrews, though his primary vote is down about 9%.
All right, and Murray?
This was a seat that the Liberals wrested from the National Party at the last election, and they've held that very comfortably. I mean, there's no way Labor wins a seat like that in Victoria.
Okay, and Scullin?
One of those ultra-safe seats in the northern and western suburbs of Melbourne, and Harry Jenkins Jr. has been very easily returned.
And the seat of Wannon?
Malcolm Fraser's old seat. A bit of a swing there. David Hawke has been reduced to preferences, which doesn't happen very often in Wannon, but he's still very comfortably returned.
Okay, and of course, Bob Hawke's old seat, Wills.
Oh, Kelvin Thompson's just improved his majority substantially. That was held by Philip Cleary for a while, but that's now reverted very safely to the Labor Party.
All right, we'll move now to all 50 seats in New South Wales, and of course we'll start with the state trend.
Well, in New South Wales, this is the state that's just kept John Howard in power. The fact that the New South Wales Prime Minister has maintained the Liberal Party's hold on New South Wales is very important. And there's the story. There's just no increase in the Labor Party vote. There should have been at this election if Labor Party was going to win. Labor never wins an election without winning half the seats in New South Wales.
And let's go through it. The seat of Banks?
Well, the Labor Party has at least improved its majority in Banks, which was a very safe seat. Previously was a safe seat, became very marginal in the last election. Labor's Darryl Mellom has been returned in that seat and at least improved his margin by 6.5%. Too many of the seats with big swings to them in New South Wales are the seats they already hold.
And Button?
Here's another example. This is a seat Labor already holds. Robert McClelland has been returned of the swing of about 6% to him after preferences.
And Bennelong, the Prime Minister's seat?
Well, the Prime Minister has had a swing against him. He did have a Melbourne Cup field of candidates, but he's still very comfortably returned. After preferences, he'll have a margin of about 5.5%.
Barawa?
Well, this is a very safe Labor seat. Philip Ruddock's held that with no particular difficulty. Philip Ruddock is back in federal parliament.
And to Blaxland, Paul Keating's old seat?
Michael Hatton won that at a by-election. He's increased his majority by 10%. A very, very comfortable win for Michael Hatton.
And Bradfield?
Well, it's a very safe Liberal seat. Brendan Nelson's won that very, very comfortably back in Parliament.
And to Calare, the independent seat.
This is the seat of independent Peter Andren, and Peter Andren will win that seat without any difficulties. Yes, he'll win that seat comfortably.
Okay, to Charlton?
Bob Brown's retiring, and the new Labor member for that seat is Kelly Hoare, Miss Kelly Hoare. So we have another Labor woman in Parliament.
And to Chipley?
Very safe Labor seat of Roger Price in the western suburbs of Sydney. Again, one of those Labor seats with a 7% swing. Exactly the sort of area. Look, if they'd got 7% in Lindsay, Labor would be close to government, but they didn't. They got it in Chifley, which they already held by over 15%.
The story of New South Wales. And to Cook?
Well, Bruce Baird is in Canberra. He replaced Stephen Much after a pre-selection in Broglio. Bruce Baird, after a career in state politics and a career at the head of the Tourism Council, Bruce Baird is in Canberra as the member for Cook.
And to Calpa?
Well, there's been a bit of a swing against the National Party in this with the presence of One Nation. But after the distribution of preferences, the Labor Party have improved their vote by 5%, but Gary Neal is still the member for Calpa.
And to Cunningham?
Well, one of those safe Labor seats with a swing of 6% to them, and Steve Martin is very comfortably returned in the seat of Cunningham.
And Michael Lee's seat, I think, of DeVille?
Well, Michael Lee came close to defeat at the last election. He's increased his vote after preferences by 3.5%. Michael Lee's been returned.
And here's one we've talked about a lot tonight, Eden Monero.
Well, at the end of the night, we still don't have a result in Eden Monero. That's the primary votes. There's a lot of distribution of preferences, and we have the Labor Party just slightly ahead, but that one is not clear. That is a definite in doubt.
All right, and to Tim Fisher's seat of Farah.
If Bob Wan, Steve Wan does win it, his father used to hold the seat many years ago.
Okay, and to Farah, Anthony?
Tim Fisher's had no problems retaining that seat. The challenge of One Nation has declined. Julia Irwin replaces Ted Grace as the Labor member for Fowler, the safest Labor seat in the outer western suburbs. Very safe now, 77% after the distribution of preferences.
And to Gilmore?
Well, early in the night, Labor Party were doing very well. Their vote fell away as the night went on. And after the distribution of preferences, there has been a 2.5% swing to the Labor Party, but Joanna Gash has been comfortably returned as a member for Gilmore on the south coast of New South Wales.
And Greenlow.
Anthony Albanese had a terrible 33rd birthday at the last election because it was his birthday on election night when he was elected. This time he's got a much larger majority, and Anthony Albanese has been returned to Parliament.
And Greenway.
Well, this was almost marginal at the last election. Once again, very safe for the Labor Party in the outer western suburbs of Sydney. Frank Mossfield has been returned to Parliament. Frank Mossfield, one of those members you think that the Labor Party should have been putting Cheryl Curnow in a seat like that, because that's very safe, and he's had two sitting members in a row who've been very low profile in a very safe Labor seat.
And to Guaido.
Well, John Anderson has comfortably held off the challenge of One Nation. He has gone to preferences, but he will still hold that seat very comfortably.
All right, seat of Hughes.
Well, Hughes, Dana Vale's won that easily. The Labor Party made absolutely no ground at all in that electorate, despite a high-profile candidate. So the fact that David Hill had all the problems with being chair of the Sydney Water Board during the recent crisis, I'm sure did not help, but Dana Vale has won. Hume's very interesting. This is a seat that the Nationals have lost to the Liberals. The National vote has just collapsed there to 9%. Albie Schultz is very well known. He's a state member for the local electorate, and he's been returned to Canberra. New Liberal member for Hume, and he solved a major coalition problem in the state parliament by winning that seat.
Okay, and the seat of Hunter.
9% swing for the Labor Party. Joel Fitzgibbons got this seat back towards the sort of margin his father used to hold it in the early 90s, so he's won that comfortably.
Okay, and Kingston Smith.
Laurie Brereton's seat, he's increased his margin. Laurie Brereton has been comfortably returned as a member for Kingsford Smith.
And to Jackie Kelly's seat in Lindsay.
Well, Jackie Kelly, I think when she won the by-election, Jackie Kelly was described as, I think, wonderful by the Prime Minister. I'm sure he has exactly the same opinion tonight. Jackie Kelly has easily held that. She has a small swing against her, but it's the sort of seat the Labor Party had to win government, and they didn't.
That's right, and I think the PM singled her out for praise tonight. And to Lowe.
Yes, well, Lowe's fallen to the Labor Party. Paul Zammit was directing preferences to the Labor Party. They've flown that way. There's an 8% swing after the distribution of preferences, and John Murphy is the new Labor member for Lowe. Just the start of that pre-selection problem, that was a seat that Michael Costello was trying desperately to win pre-selection for.
That's right, and the seat of Lyne?
Well, there's been a swing against the National Party, but it's still held comfortably by Transport Minister Mark Vaile. This was a seat, there was a lot of talk that One Nation would do well in, but they only got 12%.
And to MacArthur?
Well, John Fay's had a 5% swing against him, but he still held that seat very comfortably. It's again, one of those outer suburban seats extending into the country of the Southern Highlands. John Fay, the Finance Minister, is back.
And McKellar?
Well, there was funny talk that Bronwyn Bishop was in trouble. She's held the vote comfortably. No particular swing either way. Bob Ellis only got 6% of the vote. All that talk of Bob Ellis possibly winning the seat was probably a bit low at the top in the end.
Just a bit. And to the seat of Mitchell, Anthony.
We got Macquarie first. Macquarie, well, there's a lot of interest in the fact that this was a 6% margin. People thought Labor would do well. In the end, well, some early figures were showing the Labor Party doing well, but when the distribution of preferences came in, the preferences did not flow to the Labor Party, and the Liberals won quite easily after the distribution of a significant One Nation vote there. And Kerry Bartlett has been returned as the member for Macquarie.
All right, and to Mitchell now.
This is an ultra-safe ultra-safe Liberal seat in the Hills district of Sydney. Alan Cadman has been very comfortably returned.
All right, now moving up to New England.
Oh, haven't seen these figures.
Ian Sinclair's old team.
Ian Sinclair will win that on the preferences of the Liberal Party and the One Nation candidate.
No, he won't, because Ian Sinclair's leaving Parliament.
Sorry, Stuart St Clair.
He's
replacing Ian Sinclair.
The man who got the pre-selection.
It is nearly midnight. And for the talkback caller the other night, he told me Graham Nuttall was going to win the seat. I think my judgment was right in the first place.
Okay, and to coming back down the state again, Newcastle.
There's no figures for Newcastle. Of course, that election will be held in several weeks following the death of the candidate.
The death of the Democrat candidate, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, and to North Sydney.
Oh, Joe Hockey's been very comfortably returned in that seat. It's a very safe Liberal seat. It was only lost to Ted Mack because of his high profile as an independent.
And to Page?
Well, I mean, there was lots of strange talk of the National Party losing this seat. There was a 2% swing for the Labor Party. It's only a 2.2% margin for Ian Causley after the distribution of preferences. But as far as Ian Causley is concerned, he's in Parliament, and that's all that matters.
Okay, and to Parkes, a huge seat.
This was interesting. There's a lot of talk of the independent doing well here. The Labor Party's led on the primary votes. The Nationals will get up on the end after distribution of preferences. The margin's only about 5%. It's a very complex count, but the preferences will get the National Party over the line. There is a Liberal there with 9% of the vote. Add that to the Nationals, there'll be a leakage of One Nation preferences, a leakage of independent preferences, and the Nationals have won that seat.
And coming back to Sydney, to the seat of Parramatta.
This one is still in doubt at the end of the night. We've got the Liberal Party after the distribution of preferences on 50.3, so that'll be a few days wait on that one.
And Patterson?
Ross Cameron there. Patterson, this is one the Labor Party has picked up. There was a 1.8% swing to the Labor Party. But again, Bob Horne's been returned. He's back in Parliament. But again, 1.8% swing in a very marginal seat is not a good result, even though they did pick the seat up.
And Prospect?
Named after the reservoir in the middle of it, which had all the water scare problems. A very diverse electorate with a lot of migrant population, and Janice Crozier held it very comfortably, a margin of over 20%.
And to Reid?
Another seat which is equally safe. Laurie Ferguson has won that seat easily for the Labor Party.
And Richmond?
Well, this has gone much closer than I expected in the end. In the end, the National Party's down to 50.8 after the distribution of preferences. So it's a very marginal seat, 6% swing, but again, the Labor Party didn't want a 6% swing in that seat. They wanted it in one of the more marginals. So Neville Newell's come close, but Larry Anthony will be re-elected.
Okay, Riverina?
This was another three-cornered contest. There's no sitting member. Noel Hicks is retired. The National Party will win that seat after the distribution of the Liberal Party's vote.
And Robertson, which was a big Labor hopeful tonight, but that didn't transpire.
And that one fizzled away as well. And Jim Lloyd has been re-elected as the member for Robertson. After the problems the other day with the old age, the pensioners and the postal votes for the Prime Minister, Jim Lloyd will be very glad to be back in Parliament.
Okay, to Shortland?
Another retiring member, Peter Morris, the former minister. He's been replaced by Jill Hall, who's a state member for Swansea, and she's now, so that's the second state member of Parliament who's transferred to the federal Parliament.
All right, and to the seat of Sydney?
Another retiring Labor member, Peter Baldwin's retired, and Tanya Plibersek is the new Labor member for Sydney.
And Throsby?
Throsby, Colin Hollis is very comfortably returned. It's a very safe seat south of Wollongong.
And Warringah? Tony Abbott's seat?
Tony Abbott's stuffed a very small swing, but he's very comfortably returned.
And to Watson?
Well, you know, another one of these seats with a 6% swing, but the Labor Party didn't need it in that seat, so Leo McClay has won the seat.
All right, and to Wentworth?
Well, a small swing, only a small swing for Andrew Thompson. Andrew Thompson doesn't need preferences, though, and he will win the seat.
And Wirrawa?
Well, another safe seat with a big swing. Mark Latham returned, but, you know, that's one of the seats they already held.
Okay, well, they're all of the New South Wales seats. We'll move up the East Coast now to Queensland, and first of all, look at the state trend.
Well, what we're seeing here is the Labor Party's votes only increased to 36% on primary votes. The story here is, again, the two-party, the swing vote here. Liberal vote well down, National vote well down, but most of that has gone to One Nation. There's only been a small drift of it to the Labor Party.
And we'll start with the seat of Blair, and of course this has been one of the stories of the night.
Well, the Liberal Party will win that seat. Oh, yes, the National Party vote will go to the Liberals, put them ahead of the Labor Party. The Labor Party vote will then be distributed and go to the Liberal Party. And Cameron Thompson is the new Liberal member for Blair, defeating Pauline Hanson.
All right, moving to some of the Brisbane seats, the seat of Bowman.
This is one of the ultra-marginals, a 4% swing to the Labor Party. Con Shaka has won after being in Parliament, out of Parliament for one term. Andrea West has been defeated for the Liberal Party.
And to Brisbane?
Well, this is one in one of only two Labor seats, and Archie Bevis has won the seat comfortably with a 4.5% swing to him. Archie Bevis back in Parliament.
And Capricornia?
Capricornia, Paul Marriott. I mean, this is a spectacular swing, in fact. Labor Party's won that very comfortably, 48.5 on the primary votes. I'm not quite sure how the preferences went, but the Labor Party's got a 9.7% swing and holds it now by 6.3%.
All right, seat of Dawson?
Well, Deanne Kelly's won that seat. She will win that after the distribution of preferences with a margin of 4.3%. So she's got a good flow of preferences from One Nation there.
And to Dixon. See, we've talked about most of the night.
Well, I think Cheryl Curnow will have great difficulty holding that seat. She would have to do well. She's only 350 votes behind, but it's still a very difficult seat for her to win after preferences.
Okay, and to Fadden?
Well, David Joel's been comfortably returned. He's had a 9.5% swing, but it was a very, very safe seat. And David Joel's back in Parliament.
All right, to Fairfax?
Well, this is a very strange result in Fairfax. The Labor Party, well, basically what happened, there was a big vote for One Nation, and the preferences have gone all over the place. And after the distribution of preferences, there's a 13.8% swing. Alex Somlai will be returned, but it's a rather remarkable result, probably produced by the high One Nation vote in their preferences.
And at the seat of Fisher?
Well, there's another seat, a 10% swing, and Peter Slipper's been returned. He's held the seat for both the National Party and the Liberal Party over the year. He's been comfortably returned, with his majority halved, though.
Okay, and back to Brisbane and to the seat of Ford.
Well, Kay Elson's held this seat comfortably. The Labor Party vote, well, the One Nation vote was very strong, and it just didn't help the Labor Party at all. Kay Elson wasn't good. It was a sizable majority. He now holds it by 4.6%.
All right, seat of Griffith.
Graham McDougall has been defeated after one term. Kevin Rudd, former senior Goss government advisor, will be returned. He gained a 4% swing and now holds it by 2.5%.
All right, and to Groom.
Whoa, let me have a look at these figures. Well, it's quite a spray of results there. The preference distribution that's been given to us is between the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, and on that basis the Liberal Party will retain that seat because the national preferences will go to the Liberals. I expect a strong flow of One Nation preferences somewhere along the lines of the Liberals. So Ian McFarlane has won that seat. The National Party, there was a lot of talk they would win that seat. They haven't.
All right, moving on to Herbert.
She's still very close at the end of the night. The battle of the Lindsays. Peter Lindsay's ahead on primary votes. The distribution of preferences shows Ted Lindsay just barely ahead. There is no way you can call that electorate yet. It's in doubt.
And to Hinkler.
Well, this is the second of those seats in North Queensland that the Labor Party did quite well. An 8% swing. We have it 50-50 after the distribution of preferences. Won't know that for a week.
And right up in the Cape to Kennedy.
Well, Bob Catt has had a very small swing against him. A bit of a swing, quite a swing on primary votes, but he gets most of those preferences, votes back as preferences, and Bob Catter has been returned as a member for Kennedy.
And Leichhardt.
Well, Warren Ensch has held that quite comfortably. No problems at all in that electorate. He's kept his vote. Warren Ensch has won that seat with the same majority he had before the election.
Okay, back to Brisbane and the seat of Lilly.
Wayne Swan's won that seat. He's collected a 4% swing. Wayne Swan is back in federal parliament, defeating the Liberals' Elizabeth Grace.
Okay, to Longman.
Well, I mean, here's another electorate which has come out quite close in the end. Mal Brow won this seat at the last election. It's completely redrawn now. We have an actual preference count, and it shows the Liberals ahead with only 50.3% of the vote after the distribution of preferences. He should hold it, but it's very, very close.
Right, and to Maranoa.
Well, One Nation did better in this election than they did in some of the areas of the state election, but Bruce Scott, the Veterans Affairs Minister, will still hold the seat comfortably, though he has suffered a 9% swing after preferences.
And McPherson?
This is John Bradford's seat. He retired, but Margaret May has won that seat for the Liberal Party. He retained he lost some votes to One Nation, some votes to the Nationals, but still holds it after the distribution of preferences. He has suffered a swing, though, but the very safe Gold Coast seat.
All right, and Moncrief?
Similar result in McPherson next door. Labor Party's getting the sorts of swings in these seats they needed in the marginals. It's again a sign of how this election gone. Kathy Sullivan has been returned.
All right, and to the seat of Moulton in Brisbane.
Well, this is another seat that's gone down to the wire. Gary Hardgrave, after the distribution of preferences, was on 50.3% of the vote. We'll have to wait in postal absence, etc. on that, but he's just got his nose in front at this stage.
All right, and Pauline Hanson's old seat of Oxley.
Well, the Labor Party's had no difficulties winning this seat back. They've had a swing of 10% to them, and Bernard Ripoll, I think it's Ripoll, I'm not quite Ripoll, or I'm not sure the pronunciation. I am very sorry for that. It's hard enough remembering all the seats. Sometimes you'll lose the pronunciation. So he's been comfortably returned. Anne Scott, the wife of the former Labor member for that seat, only got 4.3% of the vote.
Okay, and the seat of Petrie.
It's another one of those down to the wire. Teresa Gambaro, if she gets back, it'll be on postal and absence 50.2, a very close election.
Okay, and to Rankin?
Well, this was notionally a Liberal vote result, electorate after distribution of preferences, the redistribution. The Labor Party's Craig Emerson. Dr. Craig Emerson is the new member. Former Hawke advisor is the new member.
And to Ryan?
Well, John Moore's won this seat very easily. He's won over half the vote. It's a safe Liberal seat in the western suburbs of Sydney. He has, in western suburbs of Brisbane, he has won the seat comfortably.
And the final seat in Queensland, Wide Bay.
This is... Well, we haven't got an actual preference count in this electorate, but I would be... you add the Liberal vote to the National Party's vote, and I would expect there must be a leakage of One Nation preferences to Warren Truss, and on that basis, Warren Truss will win that election.
All right, we'll go across now to South Australia and have a look first at the state trend there.
Well, in South Australia, the Labor Party's made no ground. If you look at this on a swing basis, the Labor Party vote is unchanged. The Liberal vote has fallen. It's all gone to One Nation. And while there's been a 4.5% swing to the Labor Party overall, it's been created by preferences, not by change in primary vote.
And to Barker?
First seat's Adelaide.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
This is held by Trish Worth. She's been pushed right to the wire. After the distribution of preferences, we have the Labor Party on 50.3% of the vote. Just got the nose in front of that election. Another one will go to postals and absence.
Okay, now we can do Barker.
There's a lot of talk of this independent in this seat. Tony Beck doing well. In the end, he only got 5.1% of the vote. Patrick Secker replaces Ian McLaughlin as the Liberal member for Barker.
And Benithan?
Martin Evans' seat in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, he's held that quite comfortably. It was the safest Labor seat, it still is in Adelaide.
And Boothby?
It's one of those seats we don't see very often. Andrew Southcott has won that seat comfortably. Not a bad vote for the Democrats. It's an area where they do well, but Andrew Southcott's been returned.
And Gray?
Vast outback seat. It was interesting to see how this would go. There's been, in the end, after preferences, no change in seat. Barry Wakeland has won it with 58.3% after preferences.
And seat of Hindmarsh?
Right down to the wire. At the end of the night, Christine Gallus, after the distribution of preferences, is on 50.1. I think she had a lead. No, she's very, very close there. Wait a week on that one.
And Kingston?
Well, her former staffer, Sue Jeans, hasn't done quite as well in Kingston. It looks like Labor Party's David Cox has won that seat. It may be the only Labor gain in South Australia or not, and they needed to do better.
Yes, and Macon?
This is another seat down to the wire, 50.4. Trish Draper is just ahead after the distribution of preferences, 50.4. And she's a bit better placed than some of those others, so Trish Draper could be returned.
Okay, and the Foreign Minister's seat of Mayo we've been talking about tonight?
Well, I'd still be surprised to see him lose. I think it'll be a close call, but I think he'll get up. And Alexander Downer should be returned. It would take a very strong control of preferences between those other candidates to get the Democrat John Schumann up.
Okay, Port Adelaide?
Safe Labor seat. It's been greatly increased. Rod Sawford is the new Labor, is the returned as the Labor member for Port Adelaide.
And to Sturt?
Christopher Pines had a bit of a swing against him, but he's still been returned. He's got a margin of about, I think, 6.6. Christopher Pines returned for the Liberal Party.
And the final seat in South Australia, Wakefield?
This was one I was interested to see how it went. The National Party challenge completely fizzled in that electorate. One Nation got 17%. Neil Andrew has been very comfortably returned.
All right. Now to the ACT, and of course it's just the two seats there to Canberra and Fraser. First of all, Canberra, Anthony.
This is Bob McMullen's old seat, now contested by Annette Ellis for the Labor Party, her seat of Namadgi having been abolished. She's held it very comfortably. After the distribution of preferences, she's got a swing of about 8.1% to her.
And the second Canberra seat of Fraser.
Well, Bob himself has now won Fraser. 6.5% swing to him. Bob McMullen, the new member for Fraser.
All right, and just to the one seat of the Northern Territory.
Of course, we get a very low count in the Northern Territory because they don't count the mobile booths. We have, after the distribution of preferences, Donbass, the CLP member, is on 50.4, which was his result before the election, so looks like it's gone down to the wire.
Right, we'll now go right across to the west and go through their seats. First of all, to the state trend.
Well, the Labor Party's had a good result there, but so's the Liberal Party because there's one seat back from independence. If you look at the swing votes here, you'll see why. Labor votes drifted up. A lot of One Nation preferences drifted, and there's a lot of loss for the independents who held seats there. So the Labor Party have improved their lot, not much again on the primary vote.
All right, let's look first of all at Kim Beazley's seat of Brand.
Great personal victory for him. For those who thought he was in trouble, he's in fact got 11.6% swing to him. Although he's won that very comfortably. Kim Beazley, for the first time in life, has his majority up over 10%.
That's right, you said that tonight, yes. And now to Canning.
Well, this one has been gained by the Labor Party. The Labor Party's Jane Garrick is the new member for Canning. A swing of 5.7%. She's the new member replacing Ricky Johnson of the Liberal Party.
And to Cowan.
This is the second Labor gain in Cowan. It's now held by Graham Edwards, former State Minister and Upper House member, defeated Richard Evans.
And to Curtin.
Well, this is the one the Liberal Party have picked up. Julie Bishop will win that seat from Alan Roach, the Independent. So Julie Bishop is the new Liberal member for Curtin.
And Forrest.
Geoffrey Prosser was recontesting. He's had a 7% swing against him. There's been a bit of a spray of votes to One Nation. He's gone to preferences, but he'll win it comfortably after the distribution.
All right, to Fremantle.
Carmen Lawrence has increased the majority substantially. She almost got to 50%, and after the distribution of preferences had a swing of 6.3%.
And Kalgoorlie?
This one is rather difficult to tell. The best estimate is that Campbell's preferences will get the Liberal over the line in this election, and Barry Haas should be the new Liberal member for Kalgoorlie.
And the seat of Moore.
And another new Liberal member, Mal Washer, defeats Independent Paul Farding in the northern suburbs of Perth in the election of Moore.
And O'Connor?
Wilson Tuckey, as we haven't seen much of Wilson, he holds a very safe seat, so we generally don't see a lot of Wilson. He has been forced to preferences, bit of a vote there for One Nation, but after distribution, he holds his seat by still over 16% of the vote.
And to Pearce.
Well, Judy Moylan suffered quite a swing there, a bit of a vote for the One Nation Party. She holds it by 5% after the distribution of preferences, 55% to her.
And to Stephen Smith's seat of Perth.
Stephen Smith increases the majority by 7%.
Again. He did that in 96.
He was one of the only Labor members to get a swing to him last time, so he's doing something right. So Stephen Smith's back in Perth.
Okay, and the seat of Stirling.
Well, this is one I didn't expect the Labor Party to win. Ian Cameron has been defeated by the Labor Party's Jan McFarlane, who we believe she's got a 4.6% swing to her, and she has been elected.
And finally, the last seat in Western Australia, Tangney.
Second, we've got one more, Swan first.
I keep on dyslexic tonight. Swan. I'm
yes,
sorry, Anthony.
Don Randall's been defeated by Kim Wilkie. Mr. Kim Wilkie for the Labor Party, the new Labor member for Swan.
And the final seat, Tangney.
Darryl Williams has been re-elected as the member for Tangney.
All right.
Senate.
And we look at the Senate seats now.
First off, at New South Wales, the important figure here is the quotas. The Labor Party have elected 2 members, the Coalition 2 members. I would expect that the Democrats are on course for a second, for the 5th seat in that seat. As for the 6th seat, I'm not sure. There are 2 seats up for grabs there. We've got 69% counted. That'll be a complex count. It'll be several weeks on that one. And then on to Victoria. This one looks a little clearer. The Labor Party will get 3 seats. The Liberals will get 2. And it's the battle then for the last seat. I would expect that the Democrats will get that. They'll get Green preferences. And I think that they'll get most of the Liberals' preferences. The Democrats should get that spot in the last spot in Victoria. And on to Queensland. This is a very interesting figure. The Labor Party will get 2 seats. The Liberal Party will get 2 seats. The One Nation's Heather Hill has been elected. The National Party are going to miss out. I think Bill O'Chee has been defeated. And the Democrats, John Woodley, should be re-elected because he will get the surplus votes from the Labor Party. I think Bill O'Chee, well, look, you really do have to wait, but I think Bill O'Chee is in a great deal of difficulty in that seat because the Green preferences and the surplus Labor votes will tend to favour the Democrats. In WA, these are very early figures. We can't say a lot from there, but we have a look at them there. The Liberal Party are on track for 3 quarters, Labor on track for 2. The battle is over whether the Democrats or the Greens get the last spot. The preferences of the Labour surplus tend to favour the Greens, and so that'll be Dee Margetts if she gets re-elected. We're coming to the end of the marathon. The Liberals will get 3 up in South Australia. The Labor Party will get 2. And the Democrats, Meg Lees, will be re-elected. Tasmania is probably one of the more interesting cases. The Labor Party will get 3 up. The Liberals will get 2 up. I would expect then the Liberal preferences will flow to Harradine, and Brian Harradine should get up. But if you look at it another way, One Nation's preferences go to the Greens, the Democrats' preferences go to the Greens. That is a battle between Brian Harradine and I would expect Louise Crosley of the Greens. That's a very close contest there. The ACT, in the end, the Liberal Party will get over the line. One Nation's preferences go to the Liberal Party, as does one of the other small parties, and the Liberal Party's Margaret Reid will win the last spot in the Senate in the ACT, the second spot, one Labor, one Liberal. So at this stage, the Senate position will remain unchanged till the 30th of June next year. And in the Northern Territory, as expected, the Country Liberal Party and the Labor Party have won one senator each.
And that's the way the Senate looks, and of course all 148 seats of the House of Representatives.